As with many sports, the NBA is really with many moments going from happy, sad, amazing, and of course ridiculous. But sometimes the amazing happens in another sense when NBA moments are etched in fans' memories for other, less heroic, but still amazing reasons. And these are the most ridiculous moments in NBA history, curated for your special taste. How many are there? You'll have to find out for yourselves. Let's get started. At number 10, we have Fergie's infamous anthem at the All-Stars. The NBA All-Star Game is usually not particularly memorable. We're sure it's a nice experience for the spectators, but for the fans at home, it's a semi-entertaining evening that eventually loses its flair. Fergie dared to be different during her rendition of the national anthem, and it was spectacular, inspiring even. Not because she was good. She was awful, but she took a risk few would ever consider. As an already established, extremely famous personality, Fergie could have just done the usual. The failed anthem has its place in NBA history. It led to an online war between Draymond Green and Josh Duhamel, prompted a genius to create a remix of her anthem that the Warriors danced to as a group, and made every fan who heard an appearance at the sporting event expect something more, something daring, for better or worse. Their comeback was even worse. But we can talk about that later. At number 9, we have Latrell Sprewell versus PJ Carlesimo. Before, Latrell Sprewell was an NBA player with the New York Knicks and Minnesota Timberwolves who could barely support his family on $10 million a year. Sprewell was an NBA player who had a bad attitude and did not know exactly how to control his aggression and emotions. When PJ disobeyed Sprewell's orders and approached him, he threw him to the ground and began choking the coach for 10 seconds before a teammate managed to separate the two. That was just the first round, however, as Sprewell returned 20 minutes later and punched Carlesimo in the face. Latrell was released by the Warriors shortly thereafter, and although he had a good career with the Knicks and the Timberwolves, he will be remembered mostly for this incident. At number 8, there is LeBron and his old fans. For years, teams ranked games and saved money to secure the chance to sign LeBron James when the Phenom became a free agent in the summer of 2010. The city of Cleveland didn't want to believe James could possibly leave them, but after another disappointing postseason, it became a reality. The Miami Heat, New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls, and Los Angeles Clippers were all rumored to be potential suitors, while the Cavs tried everything in their power to keep LeBron in Cleveland. When James announced his decision on the decision, the city of Miami was abuzz with excitement over the arrival of two-time MVP, who joins Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh on the Heat. The city of Cleveland didn't take it well, and now LeBron cannot enter the state of Ohio without being constantly surrounded by a brigade of security guards. Cavaliers fans reacted by burning his jersey, destroying his memorabilia, and throwing objects at his likeness on a giant billboard in Cleveland. General Manager Dan Gilbert responded like everyone else in town, writing an angry letter denouncing James and promising the city would win a championship before the self-proclaimed King LeBron returned to Quicken Loans Arena for the first time on December 2nd. Question for you: have you ever experienced or witnessed a moment like this when it was happening? You can always let us know below in the comments section. At number 7, there is Kobe versus Shaq. Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal have a lot on their plate. 3 NBA championships and recognition as one of the greatest duos in NBA history have made the two teammates legend on the hardwood. Shaq and Kobe have their own legacy with 9 championships between them. It all started in the summer of 2004 when Shaquille O'Neal got the trade he had been waiting years for. During the 2006 season, the two reconciled when Shaq praised Kobe's 81-point performance, and the two were seen talking during All-Star Weekend. It was not until the 2009 NBA All-Star Game that Kobe and Shaq played together for the first time since their Laker days. They were co-MVP of the All-Star Game and MVP. Overall, Shaq won 6 out of the 10 games between the two. At number 6, Michael Jordan's retirement. Michael Jordan was a pretty good player. That sounds funny when you say it like that, does it not? Prior to the 1994 season, Jordan had already won 3 straight championships, 2 slam dunk championships, 3 finals MVP awards, 9 All-Star appearances, and an All-Star Game MVP award, a Defensive Player of the Year award, 3 MVP awards, and a number of first-team All-NBA appearances. Jordan was living his dream as the NBA's best player, challenging Wilt Chamberlain as the greatest player of all time, until October 6, 1993, when he decided to do the unthinkable and retire. He stated that he had lost the desire to play and that the murder of his father was a driving force behind his decision. When the team went 31-31 during the 1994 season, Jordan decided he had had enough of staying away from basketball and returned to the Bulls in triumphant fashion, leading the team to the Eastern Conference semifinals before losing in 6 games. The rest, well, we know what happens next. At number 5, of course, there is also Magic Johnson's retirement. When it comes to retirements, of course, Magic Johnson is also a big topic. As big of a legend he was, his retirement was both saddening and ridiculous when you think about it. He is considered arguably the greatest point guard to ever play the game. His size and incredible court vision, coupled with his will to win, made him one of the top 5 players in NBA history, and the Los Angeles Lakers a legendary team in the 1980s. In a tearful conference on November 7, 1991, Magic made a public statement telling everyone that he was ill with AIDS and would retire. One of the most memorable moments of Magic's career was the 1992 All-Star Game. Although he was retired, Johnson was voted by the fans to play, and he won the MVP award after looking like the Magic of old with 25 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. At number 4, there is the Raptors' malfunctioning shot clock, aka the Horn Game. Game 1 of the first round of the 2004 playoffs pitted the Toronto Raptors against the Brooklyn Nets, which would mark the Raptors' first playoff appearance since 2008. Pretty amazing circumstances, right? Well, they're forever etched into the psyche of Raptors supporters thanks to one dumb jerk from ESPN. During halftime of the game between the Raptors and Nets, the shot clocks began to malfunction and eventually became unusable. For the rest of the game, the shot clock becomes a stopwatch and is manually triggered. We should probably mention that after the one, no horn sounded, but Herbie literally said the word horn to signal the end of the shot clock. The last 3 are here with Carmelo Anthony lying motionless on the court, and the game goes on. Oklahoma City played the Denver Nuggets in a home game in the final days of the 2010 regular season. Here's what happened, as far as we know. In the final moment of the third quarter, Carmelo Anthony receives the ball at the elbow and tries to drive into the lane. In the process, he collides with defender Kevin "The Wall" Durant, and Melo collapses like a Quap avatar and is flagged for a travel. OKC now has possession and gets the ball. Anthony is still completely down. J.R. Smith gets the ball and tries a 1-on-5 fast break special, nearly smashing the head of the out-cold Melo. Only then did the officials stop the game to examine Carmelo and find out he hasn't spent himself. We also refuse to believe the explanation that the referee saw through Anthony and perhaps tried a dirty trick. To this day, NBA referees still count Anderson Varejão's ridiculous flops as fouls. They just don't learn. The big event before the biggest one, Bob Sacra plays on with 6 fouls. Chris Kaman snoozes on the bench. Man, the final days of the regular season are really bringing out the worst in already woeful teams. In a race to the wire, the 2013-14 Lakers played the Cleveland Cavaliers in a game that started out as basketball but ended as a comic farce. With less than 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Robert Sacra picked up his 6th foul. In a normal basketball situation, he would have been ejected from the game for that, but due to extenuating circumstances and a little-known NBA rule, he was allowed to stay on the court. Essentially, each team needs to have 5 people on the court at all times, and if one of those 5s receives a 6th foul and no one is able to replace him, then that player stays in the game and receives a technical. Should Sakura pick up more fouls after that, they would all be technicals. This situation isn't that unheard of. In fact, the same thing happened a few years earlier to the Nelly Ball Warriors. Chris Kaman, who now has the bench to himself, spends the rest of a memorable away game napping and becoming a prime Photoshop opportunity. This is probably my favorite. And the most ridiculous one is Tim Duncan getting ejected from the game for laughing. When the Kobe retirement tour finally came to an end this year, Duncan took the opportunity to hitch his own farewell to the NBA. In contrast to the pomp and drama that Kobe's retirement would cause, Duncan's farewell was like a polite goodbye. He exemplified Duncan's anything but top-notch Hall of Famer career. A player whose insanely consistent but visually unexciting play earned him 5 championships without ever taking the moment to say, "Look at me." In a 2007 game against the Dallas Mavericks, Duncan was sitting on San Antonio's bench when referee Joey Crawford called a blocking foul in the Mavericks' favor. Duncan then laughs on the bench with his teammates, resulting in the first technical foul. Incredibly, Duncan says nothing to Crawford and the Mavericks take the free throw. Moments later, with Duncan still giggling on the sideline, he receives his second technical foul from an enraged Crawford and is automatically ejected from the game. 2 technical penalties, 1 ejection from the game. For laughing. Crawford was suspended for the rest of the NBA season, and an entire section of his Wikipedia page was devoted to the incident, while Duncan and the Spurs won the championship that year. And that was actually our last post. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter, but until then, we'll see you in the next video.